Week three was in action. Week three is an emotional week. The highs and the lows of the week. What's up, everyone? Back Porch Overs Club NFL Week 3 recap. I am not going solo. Joining me is Cowboy Nation representative Isaac is with me. Isaac, I know that you're going to have some time here with the Cowboys, but thank you. Off the emotional win. Recording is starting while the Cowboy game is not actually final. So raw emotion coming from Isaac here in a little bit.
I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give you everything I got. I mean, I figure I might as well get it out of the way now.
Yeah. So the emotional high and low of the whole week is just, overreaction Monday will happen. We'll post this tomorrow morning. So we'll give a little bit of overreaction, but we'll start back on Thursday night to kick off the week. I think everyone expected it to be a dud. San Fran 30, New York Giants 12. Giants. What's their record now? Not good.
No, not at all.
Not good. 1-2. Dayball's got a lot to do over there, and the crazy thing is Brock Purdy did not play very well, but he set a passing record for himself, 310 yards, and they won the game in a blowout. I think that's crazy that they played bad and they blew out the Giants.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was watching at the beginning of the game, and I remember my thoughts kind of on it. I actually went into the game looking at it in a different light, more so from the Giants' point of view, because I was thinking, okay, they came back on the Cardinals after getting blown out by Dallas week 1. I kind of thought they'd come into this, and they kind of stood tall, to start out. But I mean, I think obviously losing Barkley, I mean, that's a lot of momentum gone. The passing record for Purdy, I think the interesting about that is that he's not really known to just take over a game. So even in a blowout win, I think it's a huge step for San Francisco to have Purdy being able to eclipse that 300-yard mark like that, because I think that just opens up their offense on a completely different level.
Yeah, their running game is just it's beautiful. It's art to watch. And I think I've been on that for a while. I mean, I know that you give me crap for how much I love Kyle Shanahan and his offense, but you get a guy like McCaffrey in there, and you just look at it, and it is a masterpiece to watch. So yeah, Brock Purdy being able to throw it's going to be dangerous, and I think floating up towards there, obviously up there last year before he got hurt, but a contender to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, but I'll go ahead and go on live and say this now. I am starting to backpedal on my hate of Kyle Shanahan. You looked at his record before. It just seems like they always fell short. And I wouldn't even say really like falling short in clutch moments. I think it was just more so just falling short in general. And I think that's unfair to hold it against him. Because, I mean, you look at the scheming of how McCaffrey, I mean, his average, before he's even touched is at least 3 or 4 yards down the field before he's even touched and he hits those holes. I mean, he's scheming everyone open. And so, I mean, you got to give the man his flowers. San Francisco's already loaded on the talent and on paper. But when you put an offensive mind like Kyle Shanahan behind it, and not only that, I mean, you see the coaching tree of Mike McDaniels coming from. I mean, offensive of guru is the definition of it. So I got to backpedal on my statement. I mean, Shanahan's the real deal. I mean, San Francisco is terrifying. They're terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, I just like whenever anyone likes to argue about it, I just bring it back to when he was in Cleveland and he had Brian Hoyer, and he was 7-4 with Brian Hoyer, and I think he had like guys like Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West like running wide open as well. So he's so good. It is really fun to watch, but kind of a snoozer on Thursday night, keeping up with the trend. Feel bad for Amazon. They paid all that money and they're trying to get them good games, and they just can never get good games, especially early in the season, but you really can't blame them for it. But weird slate in the afternoon. I really hate when the NFL does this because the witching hour is insane. 9 1 o'clock games, 3 4 o'clock games. It was a catastrophe trying to watch it, but we'll start with the 9 1 o'clock games and kind of go one by one on them. We'll start in Cleveland actually, because they're actually at the top of the list here. Cleveland 27, Tennessee 3. I am like foaming at the mouth of the defense. I think they look incredible. It's 3 weeks in a row that they've looked very, very good. And I'm not saying that Tennessee, Pittsburgh are prolific offenses, but you had a lot of hype coming out of preseason with how good Pittsburgh was and Kenny Pickett and everything. They played very well Monday night, even though they lost. Obviously, Joe Burrow hurt, but the consistency of getting pressure and like not missing tackles is very promising. And Deshaun Watson played his best game as a Brown. So looking forward to next week against the Ravens. But that's all I have in Cleveland. If you have anything else to add.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought you used the right expression for yourself, foaming at the mouth. That's kind of what I picture with Myles Garrett. I mean, the dude is disrupting everything on the offensive line for every team he's going against. And I don't know, man. I think give Cleveland more credit. You know, you play who you play on your schedule, but I mean, I think I know the conditions. I know you can say Joe Burrow rushed back, but that game against Cincinnati wasn't just a misfiring by Cincy. I mean, that was a gritty, in your face kind of performance by the Cleveland defense. And that's really been the same for every single week since then. I mean, Tennessee's offense isn't exactly prolific, but they have arguably the third, top 3 running back in terms of yards per carry and just his ability to affect the game, and Derrick Henry, and they shut him down. I mean, completely.
94 total yards for that offense, and Derrick Henry 9 for 20 is crazy.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's not like it was a blowout to where Tennessee had to throw the ball. It was relatively close where they could have stuck to their game plan. They just had nothing going for them. So, I mean, if I'm Cleveland, and you said it yourself, watching easily the best game he's had I would say as a Cleveland quarterback. I mean, he was hitting his marks. I know that Cooper got robbed on that downfield play. There was,
that was so brutal. It wasn't even close, too.
No, not at all. So, I mean, Cleveland, it's exciting times, I feel like, in Cleveland. I know you got to have a little bit of skepticism because of Cleveland's history, but, I mean, when you've got a gritty defense like that and everything seems to be firing on that end, even the secondary holding up their side of it, it's hard not to be excited about them. If their offense could just get a little bit of consistency, and, I think today was the first day they didn't have crazy weather, too. You know what I mean? So this could be a insight to what it will look like in the future, but of course we need to go week to week.
Yeah, week to week. Browns 2-1. My cousin sent me this. Still on the Browns schedule. The Cardinals, the Colts, the Broncos, the Bears, the Jets. So those are some winnable games upcoming. They got Baltimore at home next week before the bye week, and then they get San Francisco. So would love to go 3-1 going into the bye, but a lot of people said go into the bye 2-2 with the gauntlet that they had of the 3 division games of Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore with the Titans. They said they would sign up for 2-2, but I know that we're looking forward to 3-1. Speaking of that matchup, Indianapolis 22, Baltimore 19 in overtime. Baltimore's offense, even though that they've been clicking, they're still not right. Their defense is flying around, but you can still see that there's some adjustments going on, and Lamar's still trying to get acclimated to it, and a lot of injuries in Baltimore. I feel like they're the most injured team every single year.
Yeah, well, it's funny when you watch them because you can tell that I don't want to say Lamar is uncomfortable, but you can tell he's not in his element. Although I feel like this game, as opposed to the previous 2, we saw Lamar when they needed a big play, he decided to do it with his legs. I mean, he found some open people, things like that. So, I mean, I think that's going to have to be a give and take. Them trying to make him a pocket passer and do that more. I mean, I know it's trying to protect him, things like that, but that's not him. I mean, I'm not saying let him be running 20 times a game or anything like that, but I think what we saw today is a version that when they get it down and more consistent, understand, I think this is the version that could be successful, to where it's when you need a big play, let Lamar make the right play. I mean, Zay Flowers is electric. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. Fantasy-wise, I was not a believer of Zay Flowers. I passed him up on multiple drafts, and I am regretting that. I mean, Zay Flowers is electric. The dude's shifty. I mean, he's quick with his feet. He gets open. He's got great separation. I know that Jackson Smith Njigba, he's got, I think he's averaging like 4.6 per route and separation, but I'm pretty sure Zay Flowers is close behind that. So I think they got the pieces to work the offense that they want, but it can't be just all what they've been doing. I think today was the first step in blending that. I know it was a loss, but I think today was the first step in blending that in the right direction to help. I will say this though, aside from Baltimore, it's really the Colts that I'm looking at the most. That division is the definition of wide open.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you without Anthony Richardson going in there and getting a win against Baltimore, and you can say, well, Anthony was a rookie QB, so maybe there's some mishaps, maybe there's some learning you got to do, so it causes some different issues. But I mean, that division is wide open. I came into this year, I will go on record and say I did actually with some of my friends pick the Texans to win the division. Don't ask me why. It was more of a feeling. I'm going to stand by it, so I'm a man of my word. But mainly it's because that division I feel like is so wide open. And the Jags, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not good.
It's not I mean, that transitions us perfectly to that game, Houston-Jacksonville. Man, CJ Stroud still has not turned the ball over with an interception. He set the rookie record for most pass attempts without an interception to start his career. They look good. I know that they got some special teams play, but man, Jacksonville's offense just does not look comfortable. I mean, at home again this week, and the offense just didn't look good. I think that they'll turn it around, but you kind of get a little wonder about like the division being wide open with that.
Let me ask you, because I mean, we saw in week 1, Calvin Ridley basically going nuclear and going off. Do you think that? And I've caught glimpses of it, but because when you look at their stat sheets, there's not really anything that stands out that's been deficient. I mean, Travis Etienne still had a good game. Ridley's getting targeted. I mean, do you think that it's more so of them trying to incorporate? Because I know they're missing Zay Jones, which is an underrated person to be missing. I mean, Zay Jones usually gets a lot of red zone targets. So do you think, and I'm asking you, do you think that they're trying to force feed Ridley to the point where they're trying to get him acclimated because they have a superstar receiver? Or I mean, what do you think is causing that? Because I couldn't tell you.
I think it's lack of execution on third down. I don't know the numbers exactly, but yeah, it does kind of seem like a force feed is happening over the past 2 weeks, and Lawrence just isn't playing how Trevor Lawrence plays. He kind of looks like he's trying to zone in and make sure that happens. Where like it'll happen naturally. Just keep throwing the ball, spreading it out. And it'll naturally, like, the numbers will even out for everyone. And I think that's what Doug Peterson will tell him in film this week to just stop worrying about the force feed and just let it flow naturally.
Yeah, I mean, and they got a good coach with Doug Peterson. I mean, you don't win the Super Bowl without being a good coach. I mean, I know you could say that you can point to the things, but the fact he did it on the arm of a backup QB, regardless of how you feel about Nick Foles, who I think deserves his flowers too. But I mean, to be able to lead a team to the Super Bowl while dealing with that kind of adversity, you got to be good at what you do. So, I mean, when he came into Jacksonville, I did have higher expectations, so I am disappointed in terms of how Jacksonville has been. But when it comes to who they played today and CJ Stroud, I mean, you watched them at Ohio State light up the field. And I know you're a huge Ohio State fan, so I know you saw it firsthand. But when he came in, the first game was a little wobbly. It was a little, obviously trying to figure things out. But to your point, the not having any turnovers is crucial. Because if I'm not mistaken, the previous person to have that record was Dak Prescott. Am I not mistaken?
I would have to double check the fact sheet, but I do remember Dak being up there. I do want to say that it was Dak.
No, I will say I think so. So I know it's but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, CJ Stroud, I mean, it's fun. I mean, and I wouldn't even say it's really not even like just his guys are schemed open. I mean, some of the throws he's making are absolutely dots.
Yeah, he has really good accuracy. It's beautiful. Yeah, Houston's gonna be good. Like they'll fix that line and they'll be good. But I don't know if I'm with your buddies winning this year. But I like to make around.
It was my buddy. It was me. It was me.
It was you. Oh, it was you.
It was me.
I don't know this year. I don't know if it's this year. But I think next year. I think Houston's got something cooking with what they got going on down there. There's a couple games that we can go kind of quick through. So we might as well knock them out back to back. Buffalo 37, Washington 3. Buffalo, I think, obviously dominated. I didn't even really see this game much on Red Zone, but they just kept scoring, and I don't know if they were just not wanting to show it because of the way the score looked. But 37-3. Sam Howell did not look good after 2 weeks of 2 weeks of looking good. So that sucks for Washington.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't win throwing 4 interceptions. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
against an offense that good. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, they got the ball. I think it was twice within the their own 30-yard line. Buffalo's able to turn it, flip it around pretty easy. So there wasn't much to show in red zone because it was pretty quick with scores and on to the next turnover. So
yeah. By chance, okay, it was only one interception today. I was like, did Josh Allen throw 2 interceptions today?
No.
Like, he's got okay. It was only one, so that's good. Moving on to another boring game. I mean, it kind of got good at the end because of the final score. New England 15, the Jets 10. They got it. The Jets have to find someone other than Zach Wilson, right? Like it's not it. He looks lost. They had like 40 yards of total offense today or something like that. It was not good.
Well, I mean, so when they played Dallas last week, and I remember texting you about it, and I said, I think actually the Jets could be okay with Zach Wilson. Then, of course, he had 3 interceptions right after I said that.
Yeah.
But the turnovers actually weren't something that bothered me today. I think there was 4 times that I counted where it was like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and the last play of the game when it was 4th and 10, and he dumped it off for a 2-yard, and not even just a drag route that could get open. It was a guy that was clearly covered. I mean, that was tackled immediately. That right there to me sounds like is a mental thing. I mean, as a QB, you got to know, especially I'll just stick to the last play of the game that they had on offense. You got to know that the only way this game continues is you get a first down. That's the only way this game continues. That means you as the QB got to make the right read. And if anything, you might got to force it a little bit to find the one that's open to get that first down. And dumping it down to me on the last play of the game, that spoke to me like there's something wrong up here mentally in terms of how he views the game. Because I don't mean like his passion. I mean just analytically. I mean that makes no sense. Why would you protect your completion percentage or making the smart play when it's the last chance you got? So I think they absolutely got to move on from Wilson. There is no chance. There is nothing with Zach Wilson there.
Yeah, when you end up going to Zach Wilson from Aaron Rodgers, and that defense like giving up 15 points and losing is just absolutely brutal and devastating, and it's stuff that'll like ruin a locker room. You already got Breece Hall deleting tweets, and someone deleted their Twitter account, and it just looks like it could be a hot mess express, and the wheels could be falling off, and Salah's got to figure something out, and I think it's getting a veteran quarterback in that room.
Yeah, well, not to mention the infighting that was going on in the sideline between Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson. I mean, there's clear frustration, 100%.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of turmoil, and the AFC is loaded, and they're going to have to figure it out if they want to. A couple teams of trying to avoid going to 0-3. I don't know if you saw this, but the Chargers 28, Minnesota 24, 4th and 1 at their own 25. Brandon Staley tried to lose his job today. He went sneak up the middle. Did he go sneak or did he hand the ball off? I forget. He did hand the ball up. Yeah, that's right. We were saying like, dude, your quarterback is 6'5". Just Philly him and just push him forward if you're going to go for it. But they gave it up. They did not get it. And Kirk Cousins got the ball at their 25 with 1:30 left, and I think he had one timeout to win the game. And if Minnesota won that game, Brandon Staley would have been left in Minnesota. And it was just blasphemy. Kirk Cousins might be an option for the Jets with Minnesota being 0-3. I don't know if that's real, but I heard it before. Now that they're 0-3, there could be talks coming up. I don't know what the Jets have to give up for him, but they got to start thinking about that because being 0-3, I saw last year they're 11-0 in one-score games. This year they've started off 0-3. So we knew that they would regress, but obviously they'd like to be at least 1-2.
Well, I think the crazy thing for Minnesota is that the fact that Justin Jefferson has 1 touchdown in 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, he only got that long one today. And I don't know if it's a scheme issue or maybe they're just shading more over to him. And I know that injury. I didn't get an update on how bad that injury was.
Cramps, just
Okay.
cramps. He's good.
So I mean, but yeah, the Jets going after Cousins will be interesting. But here's my thing on the Chargers, and everyone knows Staley was a defensive coach. Like that's his calling card. You know that your defense so far up until, and we've seen it through 3 weeks, is, even though they forced some turnovers, they did okay. But I mean, their defense is 100% their weakest unit on both sides of the ball. As a coach, and especially a defensive, I mean, I'm just picturing if I was the defensive coordinator and we went for it on 4th and 1, knowing that now our side has to defend the play. And I know you want to step up and take that, but as a head coach, and especially a defensive guy, you would think that he would try to take the pressure off his defense. And I get it, because if you get the first down, bam, no pressure. But I mean, to put your team in that situation, when you're up by 4, you could have kicked a field goal, at least made it to where they had to score and get the extra point just to tie it. I mean, that's a huge difference. It makes absolutely no sense that Staley made that call, being a defensive coach and knowing the situation. I mean, and I know he's done this multiple times. He should have lost his job 2 years ago, but I
don't know how he's got dirt on the owner or something.
He has to.
He should be gone. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind on that. Let's skip over. Well, not skip over, but let's just briefly touch on, for the Broncos fans not safe for work right now. Miami 70, Denver 20. You let up 70 points. Sean Payton was talking all that smack about Mike McDaniel and Tua, and he kept the receipts and he said, I'm gonna run this bitch up like to 70 points. I can't believe it. It's hilarious. They even took the starters out at the end of the third quarter and they still scored 70. Where do you go from here as Denver?
You don't. You don't. Here's the thing that people are forgetting. Denver is the oldest team in the league. Mm-hmm. So it's not as if they can say, you know what, guys, hey, we're young, we're learning, let's chalk it up, let's move to next week. They can't. They've mortgaged their future for Russ. They've mortgaged their future again for Sean Payton. I mean, they have no future. This is the only shot they got, and it's not like they've got young reinforcements on the way. Maybe this is my own ignorance. Who's their backup QB? This is my own ignorance on that. Who's their backup QB? I don't even think they have a project behind Wilson. The wheels have fallen off on that. I don't know what to do. And you know, really though, maybe it's a hot take, but really Denver's kind of been struggling even with the Peyton Manning thing. If it wasn't for Peyton Manning,
they'd be like the Browns.
They would. They absolutely would. Sorry, but they absolutely would. You know, Peyton Manning saved them, and since then, you know, I used to think John Elway was a mastermind, or at least had an idea in terms of how he handled the Peyton situation, how they got that done, the defense they constructed. But it's fallen off, and now you got to wonder, okay, do we need a complete upheaval? I mean, from top to bottom, because I don't know where you can go from here. I don't know how you salvage this. I don't.
The Russ contract extension hasn't even kicked in yet, too.
Nope.
So they're in shambles. God bless. Hug your Bronco friends if you have them, because they need it. Couple more games on the slate before we get to the final one. We'll wrap up with your emotional stuff. Kansas City 41-10. Shout out Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce anytime touchdown today. Was a lock with Taylor Swift in the booth with mom. If they are dating, cool. If this is a publicity stunt, this is the funniest thing that I've ever seen. Like, both of them just getting in on it and being like, hey, like, let's troll America and like have a good laugh about it. Like, this is just so funny. I absolutely love it. But the Bears are a dumpster fire, and that's basically all that I have.
Awful. I second that. I was more excited about the T Swift sighting than I was about the game. I mean, enjoying the game with Mama Kelce, wearing a jersey. I mean, that's
legend.
Yeah, and the fact that she's one of us with how excited she got on
let's fucking go.
Yeah, so I'm all for it. You know, so I was more excited about that. But I will say this though, you know, and I feel the same way about Patrick Mahomes as I did about Tom Brady, in the fact that it doesn't matter who's on that field. It doesn't matter how the season starts. It doesn't matter any of that. I will never count out Patrick Mahomes. He has earned that right. He has shown that right. I still believe that if there's anyone that's going to pass Tom Brady in terms of being the GOAT, and, opinion based and all that, it's Mahomes. I mean, this dude is a magician on there. I mean, you look at his receiving core, and I know there was issues with Kadarius Toney and all that week 1, but they seem to have rectified that. I mean, Kelsey back and you got to give Andy Reid credit. I know a lot of people like to say when you have a QB or even a star player in any sport of that magnitude, then you can't really compliment the coach too much. But I'm going to. I love what they're doing. The simple fact that they've clawed back and turned this around already. I mean, I know Chicago's a dumpster fire, but dropping 41 on anyone and the way they did it so easily, and I mean it was effortless. It's amazing what Patrick. It never ceases to amaze me how every single year he still takes it to another level. It's amazing.
Yeah, coaches still get paychecks too, so they're a big part of it. This one just went final. Seahawks 37, Panthers 27. Andy Dalton, nice guy, played the game. Looks like Seattle might have found a little bit of offense, so good for Geno Smith. I'm happy for Geno Smith, but I don't watch a lot of Seahawks games, and it looks like it's going to take a little bit for Carolina to figure it out. Not really a lot that the Panthers can take away from this game because obviously Dalton is just stepping in. He did throw for 361, so that's cool, but we're kind of worried about Bryce Young more than we are Andy Dalton.
Well, I mean that's their future. Bryce Young's is that's what it is. I will say I was looking forward to watching the Bryce Young and CJ Stroud grow throughout this year and getting to see it week by week. This injury obviously puts a damper on it a little bit, but I think Bryce Young's very skilled. I think he's a very smart QB. I know that he leaves the pocket a lot, but I mean I haven't really seen that as much as a pro. But I will come out and say it. I have a little bit of resignations on whether or not Carolina is going to be able to nurture him and get him where he needs to be. I have more faith in Houston doing it than I do Carolina, to be honest with you, when it comes to CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But yeah, I mean, there's not. What do you take away from this? This year is supposed to be a growth year for Bryce Young, and if he doesn't play, then you're just out there to get paid and move forward.
Yep, that kind of sucks. Bryce Young just looks so small. I'm kind of worried about him getting hurt, and it's not great that he's already sidelined in week 3 of the rookie season. 2 other games that kind of just missed being on red zone because of the slate. Falcons, Lions. Falcons didn't score a touchdown. Lions 2-1. So happy for the Lions. Didn't really see a lot of the game, so I don't really have a lot. Amon-Ra St. Brown is awesome. I just know that.
I got to watch it. I am a little worried about DeAndre Swift. Jahmyr Gibbs. Because, I can't put my finger on it. I know he had a bigger workload today. Still didn't really stand out as much as I hoped for him to. I think coming out of this draft, I had Bijan 1 clearly, and then I think, Jahmyr Gibbs to me was the next most talented back. And so I expected a little bit more with him having the full workload. But that offense is one of those that can go off at any time. And Jameson Williams is right around the corner. So they're not even at peak start. So Atlanta, though, I salute Arthur Smith for going old school, and leaning into that super heavy. But that doesn't win in this NFL, this era. So I think Desmond Ridder is on the cusp of maybe being, something they can stabilize. I'm still leaning more towards he's not really the one, but I don't think he's awful by any means. I liked him at Cincy. I liked him coming out. So, I think he's someone that could do something. So when it comes to Atlanta, that should just be the Bijan show. Obviously, with Tyler Algier, it takes a little bit of the workload off, so longevity is there for Bijan. But, out of this game, Lions were the most exciting. I believe they're contenders. I know they had a little slip up last week, but I'm a fan of the Lions. I'm huge fan of Dan Campbell. I love the culture he brings. So, I think Jared Goff seems to have, had a resurgence when it comes to his career. So I'm excited for the Lions.
Yeah, the Falcons, they're in a weird situation because that division seems like it's wide open. And if they could even go after a guy like Kirk Cousins, or if Matt Stafford comes available to come home to Atlanta, like they could do it. But I think they really got to try to like just pull the Band-Aid off Ritter and see, hey, like, can you be a guy that can be our quarterback, or do we need to move on from you? So
Yeah.
really weird situation they're in. And then before we get to the last one, quick little bit, Packers Saints. Derek Carr hurt in this game. Looks like he just has a shoulder sprain.
Yeah.
Waiting for the swelling to go down to see how long he could be out. But Jordan Love came through, 18 points in the fourth quarter for that offense. Sucks that Jameis couldn't really get it done. I love Jameis. He's so funny. He's so fun to watch. So he kind of sucked in the second half when he came in. So good for the Packers. Sad for Jameis guys.
Yeah, and Jameis really is. I mean, I don't. As far as teammates are concerned, I don't think you can find anyone that has a problem with Jameis. I think everyone rallies behind him, and he was the same way at Florida State, and then coming out here and New Orleans, right up, or starting out in Tampa, coming over to New Orleans. It was funny when Derek Carr got hurt. I was like, oh, that's right, they do have Jameis. Like,
yeah, you forgot. Who's where?
Yeah, so I mean, but I actually thought they were going to pull the win out, but yeah, Jameis wasn't great, and I don't know if that's because Derek Carr was one of those players that I like. It's not like you're sitting on the edge of your seat if I'm Jameis thinking, okay, he might do terrible, I might come in at this point. I mean, I feel like Jameis is in one of those situations where he was only going to start if there was a bad injury, and it would be the following week. I don't think he was ready to come in. I mean, you're always ready as a player, but I don't think he came into this game expecting. So I'm willing to give it a little bit of a pass. Obviously, they were saying that Derek Carr avoided some serious injury. So it could just be something that, like you said, swell and go down, rest, see how it is next week, week to week kind of thing. But if Jameis does play next week, I think he bounces back. I will say this, and I think a lot of people hated on it. The Aaron Rodgers saga, how that was handled, I thought it was handled very poorly in terms of how they handled Aaron Rodgers. But how they handle QBs in general, I feel like every team should follow this. Because Brett Favre to Rodgers, it was messy, wasn't pretty. Rodgers got to learn and did great. I'm not saying Jordan Love is a Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, but I am saying Jordan Love seems to have learned quite a bit. And I think that it works. I know we're going to talk about Dallas in a little bit, but I'm kind of hoping Dallas is the same thing with Trey Lance. I think that, the NBA is different. You can come in as a rookie, and you can be a rookie here, but I'm saying, but across the board, typically, if you're a rookie, you can come in and make significant leaps. But when it comes to QB specifically, I know you have rookies that step in and do well and all that kind of thing. But I think for the most part, letting them sit 2 or 3 years even is only going to benefit them. And the way Green Bay handled the contract situation for Love, it's not like they're out a bunch and still is able to keep him on lock. So I love the way Green Bay's handled this. I love their future personally.
Yeah, it does look promising. I wasn't the biggest believer in Jordan Love, but he's clearly, like you said, he's clearly advanced mentally. I think if they would do it over again, they would, like, when they started that draft process, like they would put an end date on when Aaron Rodgers is like, hey, the end of the 2022 season or the end of the 2021 season, you are gone. Like that is what we need to agree on. I think that's like what they'll want to do again in 15 years when Jordan Love is ready to not be their quarterback. Yeah. So we'll revisit this in like 2037. So clip that. But yeah, okay. Last one of the day. I'll let you take the floor. Cardinals 28, Cowboys 16.
Man, and it's so frustrating. It's so sad. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna call it is sad. I don't like to consider myself one of those fans that are, this is our year, we're amazing, there's no stopping a Super Bowl. I don't really consider myself one of those fans, but I would be lying if I was not very excited about this Dallas team. And I, aside from the injury, because I'll talk about that in a second, but I mean, the way this defense played in general up until this game, I know beating up on the Giants, beating up on the Jets, I get that. But to shut someone out 40-0 and then to shut someone down in the second half like they did, like all those kind of things, that deserves credit and it deserves flowers to be made. This defense has, in my opinion, the best defensive player. I mean, you could argue between Bosa and TJ Watt. I just personally think Parsons is because of his, being able to be in so many different places and do well in each one of those things. But to come into this game missing 3 offensive linemen, and Tyron Smith being questionable, ended up not playing. He was suited up. Not quite sure why they chose not to. I personally, and this is just speculation, based on the fact that we had 15 penalties, we started out sluggish. We weren't prepared. I think they held out Tyron Smith thinking it was a game that we were supposed to win, so let him get rest, and I think that just came back and bit us. I'm not going to harp on Dak. I know he had that interception at the end, but that was more for me.
Down 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to make it work. But, I mean, I think he's been very efficient in this offense. I don't think the sky is falling, but it absolutely is just the same as it's always been. They are who we know they are. Dallas is just not winning when they need to, whether that be playoffs, whether that be clutch moments, whatever that may be. And that dates all the way back to the missed field goal against Seattle in the play. I mean, it started then with Romo, and it has continued now. And it's a culture thing. I mean, there is no other way to look at it other than a culture thing. It would be different if the players were coming out, and even last year, a lot of interceptions Dak threw. I hate the narrative that he's a turnover prone because it was only 1 year that he's been turnover prone. But regardless, you could point to that last year. But when you have that many penalties, and they are pre-snap penalties, it's not like they're technical penalties, or you can say PI and it wasn't PI, or it wasn't that's holding, but no, they were pre-snap penalties. That is all up here, which is culture driven. When you come into a game like this, that's a trap game. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think Cardinals are slouches. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Cardinals are contenders. No, they're not. They're not a great football team, but they are a NFL team. When you come into trap games like this, go ahead.
I said, yeah, they still get paychecks too. Like they're still NFL players.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I can't really point to one facet because, I mean, Tony Pollard, Cowboys, I think it was 13 games in a row without a 100-yard rusher, and Pollard rushed for about 130 this game. Dak used his legs. The offense, the red zone, I did not think was an issue, but now I do. I mean, we had 5 trips to the red zone and walked away with 6 points. So that's a problem. I don't know. This one was tough. I mean, we allowed 182 yards in the first half, gashing us. I think that, unfortunately, offensive coordinators are going to figure out that if you want to beat Dallas's defense, you run right at Parsons. And that's what they did. And if you throw the ball, you get it out quick away from Parsons. I mean, that's all Arizona did. And it gashed us. What do you think?
Yeah. 13 penalties for 107 yards for the Cowboys today. That's brutal. The efficiency in the red zone is obviously a huge concern as well. Like you said, 1 for 5 in red zone opportunities, and that will tell the story about it. I do think that in college football we say, hey, if it's better to lose early if you're going to lose. In the NFL, it's different. No one goes 15-2. It's very rare. But I think the Cowboys got off to this big, crazy start, and it was easy to buy into the hype. Even on the outside looking in, not being a Cowboys fan, is like, wow, they are so good on defense, and they are so efficient on offense. It's probably good for a little slice of humble pie. It might be good for the team and the culture is like. So Mike McCarthy can go into that locker room and be like, see, I told y'all to not overlook any NFL team. We have a lot of work to do. And they'll rebound with who do they have next week again? I think they have New England next week. So obviously very good, very well coached team. Good culture, not a great offense, good defense. Dallas will be favored in that game. Are you on the road or at home?
No, we are. Oh, I think we're in New England. I'm pretty sure we got back-to-back away games.
Yeah,
and then we have home against San Francisco.
Yep, on Sunday Night Football, that one is. Yep. Yep. No, that one's you guys have the Patriots at home. So that is
Oh,
good. I think Jerry's World is an advantage, especially early in the season. The Cowboys are very, very good at home. But like you said, the sky isn't falling. The Cowboys will be fine, and they'll string some together here. I expect them to win next week, and I expect them to play very well against San Francisco, even though Kyle Shanahan has your number.
I mean, it's not even a little bit. He owns us.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
he is daddy.
Yeah. So Kyle Shanahan is it, man. I know that we were looking forward to Week 5. Now though, I agree with the humble pie. I think that it makes it to where I've said this for a while, and I'm sure a lot of pro players do. I know Michael Parsons is very vocal on social media, but if I'm a Dallas player, I'm just deleting all social media, and it's not just to avoid trolls. There is no winning when it comes to how Dallas is viewed, and I believe that with this loss, as far as a player is concerned, mentally, their thought process has to be week to week. I mean, I think that talent-wise, and it's been this way for a while, there's not many teams that match up with Dallas talent-wise, and it's been that way for quite some time. But if they don't look at each week as a week-to-week thing, and they come into the game with the mentality of, we've got to win in every facet of the game, we've got to win every down, we've got to win every inch, we've got to win every quarter. If they don't look at it like that, then we're going to have repeat things like this, and history does not favor us. It's not like Dallas has a history of not crumbling when they're not supposed to. They don't. They have a history of falling apart. So history's not on our side, but I think you're right. I do think we bounce back next week. San Francisco, I was excited for it. My excitement has dampened a little bit. It's not as pumped going into it, but I think that it's still exciting time. I do think losing Diggs was a big thing. Cardinals picked on Bland often early this game, and it showed. I would love for Dallas to go make a move for J.C. Jackson. Maybe he's on the block.
Yeah, he might be.
Maybe. Don't know what's going on there. But losing Diggs hurt more than I thought, and it showed early. I think Dallas figured it out because, second half we held them to, I think it was 70 yards the whole second half, or it was 40 up until I believe that last drive when they got it back and ran the clock out. So, it was – we held them to quite a bit or under quite a bit. So I do think we figured it out there in the second half, and we're going to have to figure out how to handle without having two stellar corners on the outside and Diggs and Gilmore, and that gives our D-line a little bit more time because that's our strength is getting pressure on the QBs, and we didn't really get that. And I think it's because they were able to get it out and they were able to, make moves in the open field that normally Diggs would have stopped. So, I think we adding another corner probably will be on our list depending on how next week goes for sure.
Yep, definitely. And then we'll wrap up with the Sunday night game. Wow, what a terrible Sunday night game that everyone watched. I do apologize, everyone. We are recording this before the Sunday night game, so this is just this is just a prediction. Kenny Pickett is terrible. I think Jimmy G showed up in a big moment. Good for Vegas. I love that Vegas went out and just dominated Pittsburgh. And this might be an old takes exposed kind of thing, but I'm glad the Raiders. You did one good for me. Thank you, Mark Davis.
I don't know. I'm actually on the opposite. I'm on the opposite side of you here. I don't think Kenny Pickett is good. I don't. But T.J. Watt is transcendent right now. They single-handedly won that game for them last week. So I actually am going Steelers on this one. I actually think they pull it out. I don't think Jimmy G is it. I just don't believe in them. I think that defense wreaks havoc, and for some reason they can't figure out how to get Josh Jacobs going. So I think
not looking forward to it. I can tell you that, but maybe we talked it into it. Hey, one of us is going to be right, and the other one's going to look stupid.
There you go. So everyone that watches this Monday, just know that this is how we were going into. This is how we built our excitement because we're not looking forward to it.
This is pre-recorded. So, All right, let's wrap that up now. Great show, great recap. Enjoy your week. I'm glad everyone had a great football Sunday. We don't get a lot of these, so enjoy the next couple months of these. Take care. Make sure you're following on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe. Have a great Monday, everyone.